Right, so this is a question in coordinate geometry, and the question is, given the midpoints of a triangle, we have to find the vertices of the triangle. So uh, let's suppose this is a triangle, and we are given three midpoints. So let's say this is A, and we are told what A is. A is 3 comma 4, and let this be B, which is the midpoint of the second side, and we are told what that is. It's 4 comma 6, and C, which is the third midpoint, is 5 comma 7. And what we are asked is, what are the coordinates of the vertices of this triangle? So if the vertices are L with coordinates Lx and Ly, and M, which has coordinates Mx and My. So don't confuse this with the slope of a line. It's not. This is just Mx and My. And N, which is Nx and Ny. Then we are supposed to find out the values of the three new x variables and the three new y variables, right? So simple enough, right? So that's the problem. Now here's the thing. A, B, and C are special points. They are the midpoints of the three sides. And what do we know about midpoints? So if we had, generally speaking, if we had a point X, which has the coordinates A comma B, and a point Y, which has the coordinates C comma D, and there's a line joining them, and the midpoint of this line is Z. So if you are asked to find out the coordinates of Z, then how do we do that? Well, we know that Zx, which is the x coordinate of Z, would simply be the average of the x coordinates of x and y, which means it would be equal to a plus c divided by 2. And similarly, Zy would be equal to b plus d divided by 2. Now this thing goes by a special name. It's called the midpoint formula, and you would have come across this. But there's a slight difference between this scenario and this scenario, right? And the difference is, here it was assumed that we knew what A, B, and C, D were, and then we were asked to find out what the coordinates of Z were. But in this case, we are given what Zx and Zy are, and we are supposed to find out what A, B, and C, D are. So the problem's been flipped, but the solution still lies with the midpoint formula. So we're going to be using the midpoint formula to solve this problem. So let's go ahead and write down some equations, right? Equations that look like this. So what I'm going to do is, just to keep things clean, I'm going to just draw a line over here first, and I will scroll down a bit. And what I'm going to do is, all the x coordinates that we're looking for, so which means all the Lx, the Mx, and Nx, I'll feature them over here in this column. And all the y coordinates, which is Ly, My, and Ny, I'll feature them over here, right? So let's start writing some equations. So if we look at line Lm, then what do we know about Lx and Mx? Well, what we know is that Lx plus Mx divided by 2 is equal to 3, which is the x coordinate of A, which implies that Lx plus Mx is equal to 6. If we look at line Mn, then what do we know? Well, we know that Mx plus Nx by 2 is equal to, what was the x? Is equal to 4, which is the x coordinate of B. This is over here. So let's scroll down. Is equal to 4, which implies that Mx plus Nx is equal to 8. And similarly, if we were to look at line Ln, then I'm just going to write this straight up because you get the picture. This multiplying by 2 business, you get that I'm going to have to do this every time. So Ln is simply going to be equal to, well, Lx plus Nx is going to be equal to twice of 5. It's 2 times 5. So that's going to be equal to 10, right? So I'm sorry. we got these three equations which feature the x coordinates. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for y. So if we look at line Lm, then what we know is that Ly plus My is going to be 2 times 4, which is equal to 8. if we look at line MN, then we know that my plus ny is going to be 2 times 6, which is 12. And if we look at line ln, then we know that ly plus ny is going to be 2 times 7, which is 14, right? So we got 6 equations, and just take the next 5 seconds just convincing yourself that these equations look good. Pause the video if you need to, and just convince yourself that these equations look good, because the next thing to do is to solve these equations for the 6 variables, these 6 variables lx, ly, and mx, my, and so on, right? So pause the video if you need to, and what I'm going to do next is actually start solving these equations. So I'm just going to stop talking for a bit. Right. So hopefully you've convinced yourself, and now it's time to solve these equations. So let's do one thing. So we'll solve these x coordinate ones first. So I'll take the first equation, which is lx plus mx is equal to 6, and what this means is that mx is equal to 6 minus lx, right? So this is what I get out of this first equation over here. Now I'm going to take this value of mx and plug it in over here in the second equation, and the second equation was mx plus nx is equal to 8, which implies 6 minus lx plus nx is equal to 8, or this is just another way of saying that nx minus lx is equal to 2, right? Now the third equation has just lx and nx in it anyway. So the third equation is nx plus lx is equal to 10, right? Now, so there was a good reason why I did the things that I did. So from the first equation, I took out mx, right? And I expressed mx in terms of lx, so that in the second equation I landed up with just lx and nx, because I knew that the third equation had just lx and nx. So I really wanted 2 equations in 2 variables, and so that I could solve them, right? So now I have a situation where I do have 2 equations in 2 variables, and this is kind of easy to solve. I just add them up, and what do I get? I get, well, the minus lx and plus lx, they cancel, and what I get is 2nx is equal to 12, which implies that nx is equal to 6, right? So we've got our first x coordinate, but using this we can find out what lx is, right? So we have nx plus lx is equal to 10, but nx is 6, so 6 plus lx is equal to 10, which implies lx is equal to 4, right? So we got a second x coordinate, and using this we can find out what the third one is. So we know that lx plus mx is equal to 6, but lx is 4, and therefore mx has to be equal to 2, right? So we've got all the 3 x coordinates. So let me create a space where I collect these results, right? So let me just section out an area over here, right? I'm going to write everything that we get in this box. So I've got L, which is equal to something, and I've got M, which is equal to something, and I've got N, which is equal to something. So let's at least write down the x coordinates that we found. So nx was 6, mx was 2, and lx was 4. So that's 4 to 6, right? So I'm just going to write this down. So this was 4, this was 2, and this was 6, right? Half the job done. We are halfway there. But and the great thing is, for y coordinates we have to do just the same thing. So we have to just do a lot of algebra. So let's do the same thing for y, right? So what do we have? The first equation is Ly plus my is equal to 8, which implies my is equal to 8 minus Ly. Now I'm going to take this value of my and plug it in to this equation, the second equation. So that is 8 minus Ly plus ny is equal to 12, which implies that ny minus Ly is equal to 12 minus 8 is 4, right? And the third equation is ny plus Ly is equal to 14. So that has been written as it is. So I'll add this up, and what do I get? I get 2ny, and the minus Ly and plus Ly, they cancel, is equal to 18, right? That's 14 plus 4, and therefore ny is equal to 9. Great. So now I have ny, so I have got a 9 over here, right? But what I still need to do is find out the other two y coordinates. So let's see what that is. What else do we know? Well, we know that Ly plus ny is equal to 14, but ny is equal to 9, and therefore Ly is going to be 14 minus 9, which turns out to be 5, right? So that's great. So what do we have? We have Ly is equal to 5. So that completes L. And so the last remaining piece is my. And my, what do we know about my? Well, we know that Ly plus my is equal to 8, but Ly was equal to 5, and therefore my will have to be 8 minus 5, which is equal to 3. So that's it. Actually, you know what? We are done. So my is just 3. So there it is. We use the same midpoint formula that we ordinarily use to calculate the midpoint, and we flip the problem, and now we found the coordinates for the 3 vertices. So the problem looked a little more complicated than it actually is, and if you just take stock of what you know and then just slowly work your way through, then you'll find that every maths problem is actually quite simple. So that was a question, and that's how it's done.